Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marriott International's Tina Edmundson in discussion with Skift's Deanna Ting.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks. So there are very, very few people on this planet that I think can actually rattle off each and every one of Marriott's 30 hotel brands. But if I were betting my money, if I were in Vegas and I wanted to go big, I'd put all of my money on our next speaker. So Tina Edmundson is the Global Brand Officer and Luxury Portfolio Leader for Marriott International. And actually, prior to working for Marriott, Tina also actually happened to work for a company called Starwood Hotels and Resorts, where she was the Senior Vice President of Brand Operations. So another little gentle reminder from me to please submit any questions that you may have for Tina. We're going to ask her those at the end of the conversation. You can do it through the mobile event app or through slido.com with the hashtag Skift Forum. And you can also upvote any questions that you like. So Tina. We're here in Berlin, in Europe, where the hotel landscape is a lot more, I guess, independent and less branded than it is in the US, where we're both based. So I'm wondering, where do you sort of see, I guess, some growth opportunities for a branded company like Marriott here in Europe? And like, what destinations are you looking at, or what types of accommodations, or what types of brands or categories?
Sure. So you're absolutely right, Deanna. So 60% of the hotels in Europe are independent, right? So pretty fragmented, which is kind of the opposite of what we see in the US, where 70% are branded with only 30% independent. But we see actually a huge opportunity, two sort of big areas. We have, as you know, part of our 30 brands is 3 collection brands. The soft brands. Luxury collection, clearly in the luxury space, Autograph collection in the upper upscale, and actually in Europe skewing into luxury, and then Tribute tucked right under, also in the upper upscale space. And so, with soft brands, there is a lot of elasticity, and so we're able to really append these amazing independent hotels into our collections quite well. Both the luxury collection actually has 42 hotels here in Europe. And 5 will be added this year. Autograph collection is, we've often said in the press, it's our fastest growing soft brand, actually our fastest growing brand for Marriott International. We're about 6 years old and we're already at 135 open hotels. And then Tribute is one that we acquired as part of the merger. And that brand's doing also really well with 28 open hotels. So all of these independent hotels, I mean, the reason that they are so popular is one, people, there is a whole segment of travelers that are looking for a non-conventional independent experience. And so we have these at all these, at these various levels. The other kind of interesting thing is, it is the fragmented sort of nature of the European market is why we launched Moxy. So particularly when we looked at that segment, the mid-scale segment, we saw that there was such a dearth of a branded product, which on some level is even more important when you're not talking about luxury. And that was sort of the business case for actually introducing a brand like Moxy, which is also doing quite well.
Yeah, definitely. I actually checked out the one not too far from here just the other day. So yeah, that's great.
Did you like it?
I did. Yeah, it was great. It was a great workspace. So speaking of Tribute Portfolio, I know actually earlier this week on Monday, Marriott announced Tribute Portfolio Homes.
Yes.
And I'd love to kind of talk to you about that and ask you a little bit more about that pilot and, if you see sort of more opportunities, branded opportunities for short-term rentals using soft brand collections.
Sure. So, clearly it's a pilot, right? And there's 2 sort of fundamental, I think, pain points when we think about short-term rentals, right? There's the issue of sort of product quality and basically a lack of brand assurance, right? And there's not really professional property management services, if you will, that can actually, vet, rentals against a specific set of standards or check, for compliance with local laws and et cetera. So sort of with that in mind, we said, this is something that we could explore given that we have, 110 million members in our combined loyalty program, which is terrific. But we wanted to make sure that we were coming out with a product that was meaningful and that was different and actually, resolve some of the pain points that we saw existed. So we partnered with Hostmaker, which is a company that's based here in London, and I think the CEO is here. And hi. We're super excited about that. And this actually came out of, we have a incubator program that Marriott is doing with Accenture in 1776, which is a global incubator program. And this is one of the concepts that rose to the surface. We're very excited about our partnership because our partner with Hostmaker actually provides all of the services, everything from listing your hotel to photography to design help if you want, cleaning, making sure guest services, the whole thing. The other thing is that was interesting is learning that actually running hotels is very different from running homes, and we wanted to make sure that we were doing this with somebody who really understood the space and was going to execute really well. In addition, guests can earn points, when they stay with us, and they will be able to redeem as soon as May. Actually, we'll have the facility for them to be able to redeem. And then, important is safety and security, which we obviously have. 24/7 customer service is another thing that's quite a pain point, right? Because when you're not in an environment that you can go down to the front desk and ask for help, who do you call? And so all of those sort of benefits, feel like the right offer for our guests.
Right. If this pilot is successful, do you think it'll serve as a model for other hotel companies to enter into the home sharing space? And will you move from partnership to acquirer or?
You never know.
Okay.
But that's really the whole point of doing the pilot, right? The point is that we're going to learn things operationally. We're going to learn things that will work and not work, and we'll modify accordingly. We'll learn things from a business perspective, and at the end of the day, it all has to make sense for us to decide to move forward.
Okay, great. So it's been about almost 2 years since the Starwood deal closed. Do you feel like at this point that your work defining all those 30 brands is on track or good to go, or are the brands really where you want them to be, or are there some where you're like, I think it needs more work?
Yeah, I don't think our work is ever done, right? And I think a question that I got asked very early in the integration is, hey, are you going to keep all 30 brands, and what is the plan? What are we going to do? And this is something that we examined really carefully, and we thought about every possibility. And we looked at every single brand and said, does it make sense for us to continue in this space? We want to make sure that we were not cannibalizing each other, and how do we think about the portfolio, and what should the architecture be? And we've landed in a place that we are going to keep all 30 brands. Now, given size, scale, it matters. Size and scale matters in today's, very competitive distribution environment. And we see all these new entrants into the travel space. And so we believe that the more brands we have, the more hotels we have, the more competitive we are. And that's important. There are certainly brands within the 30 brand portfolio that are growth vehicles. And that's important for us as a company as well. Last year in 2017, we opened 75,000 rooms, which is, I think, a new hotel every 14 hours or something like that. But we are a growth company, and these things are important to us. And then importantly, I think that the merger has been very complementary. If you even look at the portfolios, Starwood had a lot of luxury and lifestyle, or I should say heavier on the luxury and lifestyle brands. Marriott was heavier on convention brands, as well as had great presence in select service. And so the coming together of that has really allowed us to have really a brand for every trip, purpose, and travel need.
Great. So I'm sure you hear this all the time too, but a lot of people, there's this perennial complaint in the hospitality industry that there are just too many brands, period. Not just from Marriott, but from everyone.
Sure, yeah.
So do you agree or disagree with that statement, and how do you respond to people when they say that?
So, well, I'm the global brand officer, so
I guess you're a little biased.
There is no such thing as too many brands. It's like being too skinny or too rich. Kidding. So I believe that brands help consumers make choices. And there are so many choices out there. Brands make a promise, and the most successful brands deliver on that promise consistently. So brands basically tell consumers or paint a picture in the mind of consumers of what they can expect from a product and a service and a quality standpoint. So no, I don't think that there are too many brands. I think the danger is having brands that don't have a very clear point of view. Because if you don't have a clear point of view, that means you cannot articulate or communicate what that is to your consumer, and therefore they don't know what you stand for. And if they don't know what you stand for, then what's the point?
Right. So aside from having a lot of brands out there, even though I guess it's never too bad to have too many, but brand proliferation can sometimes be a problem for the hotel owners. I've spoken to some of them who've expressed a lot of concerns about the fact that when they work with a company like Marriott that has so many brands, that there's this higher risk of cannibalization or increased competition from brands in their own sort of like the sister brands in the same portfolio, and they're not as protected by area of protection rules like they were before, and so on and so forth. So I'm just wondering, when you're having this conversation with hotel owners, how do you convince them that there's no such thing as too many brands out there?
And I think this is where, Deanna, where the onus is on us, right, to do two things. One is to clearly differentiate and make sure that brands have a point of view, and that they are targeted. We are targeting brands to particular customer segments. So some of these conversations are easier than others because there is clear distinction. As an example, if I'm in a market where there's a Ritz-Carlton and I'm talking to a Ritz-Carlton owner and I'm entering the market with a Courtyard, there's not really cannibalization because the Ritz-Carlton customer is clearly different from a Courtyard customer. I do get the point though, because we do have hotel brands that are now in the same swim lane, if you will, and we have to work harder at pulling these apart, to make that point. The other thing that I would say is, hotel owners also want growth,
right?
And having multiple brands in a market allows us to do that. And so it's two sides of the same coin. Yes, and for every hotel owner, of course, they want to be the one that owns the territory. But just as we do on the consumer side, it's important that we allow for growth for our owner community, which is a hugely important community for us as well.
Is there ever a chance that Marriott might sort of max itself out in any one market because it has so much growth or so many brands in one particular market?
It might happen, but I haven't seen it yet.
So maybe. All right.
I think in Shanghai we have 50 hotels.
Oh, wow.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, it is.
But the city's big enough.
Yeah. Another question I've always thought about is, can you ever just kill a brand? Like, is there ever a circumstance where you want to sunset a brand and sort of let it ride off into the sunset and disappear?
Truthfully, we actually thought about that long and hard. It's hard to do. And that's the other thing is, we are not in the manufacturing business where we are manufacturing widgets and we can say, oh, I don't like that anymore. We're going to just shut that down, right? Because we have contracts. Contracts are typically 30 years. We have owners, and you can't walk away. The other thing is that our brands are really well distributed. So even a small brand, a brand like Autograph, which is quite new, is 135 hotels already. That means 135 owners.
Right.
So it's harder, definitely, to sunset a brand.
Okay. All right. So another thing I wanted to talk to you about, because you're also the luxury portfolio leader at Marriott, is luxury hospitality. So I sort of noticed in my coverage of this space that there sort of appears to be a bit of an identity crisis in luxury hospitality right now. Sort of this idea that the traditional markers of luxury hospitality are sort of not quite as valued or seen as necessary as they were before. Do you sort of see that yourself? And if so, what does the sector need to do to kind of overcome that?
I think, luxury has become very personal, right? And so what it means to each person is different. But I think the reality is it's still about quality. It is still about, and this is going to sound cliche-ish, but it's still about being authentic or authenticity. And it's about wanting things that are scarce. So those things sort of exist. I think what we're seeing most in the luxury segment is people really want travel to be a conduit for self-actualization.
Right.
So we've sort of gone beyond the status of sort of staying in a luxury product to saying the role really of luxury hotels has changed from sort of this deliverer of these great experiences to almost an enabler of transformation. And that's a big change for us. And I can see the industry trying to certainly adapt to that. I think the important things to note is affluent customers are, that segment is growing exponentially. More and more people are getting into the space where, and you've talked about it before, it is about now experiences and not just materiality. And so even people that, who 10, 15 years ago would not spend extravagantly on a trip, now because they are with their loved ones, these are the memories that they want to take home, and it kind of, these things kind of inform the way that they live. So I think the whole industry is changing, and no sooner that we walk out of this door, there'll be new nuances that we'll have to adapt to.
So I'm going to drop the M word here,
okay.
Millennials. Do you think, especially when it comes to luxury travel, that there's too much or not enough focus on millennials?
I think we're all focused on millennials whether we like it or not. I think that the things that they want are the things that a Gen Xer and a baby boomer even wants today. They may be accelerating our need for more technology or faster response, but there's nothing that I would say, the markers of a millennial are not what we are focused on. And I wouldn't say it's not concentrated in one brand like a Moxie, but it is across every brand, and I think probably across the travel industry, right? And so it's really about, understanding that and making sure that we are adapting our physical environment and our service environment to suit that need.
And I also wanted to ask you too, what role do you sort of see technology playing in hospitality today going forward?
Yeah, that's like hot water. It's of course,
privacy and personalization.
Of course. So super important, right? And is sort of at the crux of everything that we do. Overall, from a hospitality perspective, I think technology helps us take out the functional elements of a hotel stay and allows us to spend time on the emotional elements. And so we always want to be high tech and high touch, in every single brand. We've done a lot of work on the technology front, particularly, I don't know if you and I have talked about our Internet of Things room.
Yes, the IoT room.
Right?
I got to check it out in Bethesda.
Right. So we're sort of well beyond the, hey, I want to check in and check out with my mobile key, and everyone's got that, and that's great and important, and we have to, of course, continue with that, guest services on chat, etc. But really using technology and partners to talk about the future and to talk about what's predictive. And so imagine being able to, because your profile is in our system, you've booked a wake-up call for 6:30, and you've told us that you would like to wake up to a yoga routine. The yoga routine then plays on your full-length mirror, and then you're going to take a shower 30 minutes later, and we know that the shower temperature that you like is 99 degrees, and so it sets up your shower and turns it on for you, and you can do all this through voice activation. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it sounds a little futuristic today. I bet you in a year we'll be sitting here and it'll be like, oh yeah, I have that at home. And that's the trouble, is that everything that is happening from a technology standpoint outside of our business is informing what we all want today. So really important to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on.
Definitely. All right, so we're going to take some questions from the audience right now. Our top question is with regards to loyalty. So you have 30 plus something brands and several clubs with 110 million members. What's the end game for an overall community that connects all of this?
So, our mission is to be the world's favorite travel company. And so the point of having 30 brands and perhaps, and with our pilot with Hostmaker as an example, is that we want to be the place, we want to be what you think of when you think about travel. We also just, launched this Moments platform that allows, that we have 110,000 experiences already on. So it's not just about your hotel stay, it's also about your hotel experience, about your experience in the community that you're traveling in. So our goal is to really be this this place that you come, for any of your travel needs.
Right, and even beyond just travel needs, I think our next question from Jacob about whether or not you agree with Accor Hotels' approach that hotels should engage more with the local community and offer its services to more people than just travelers or guests. I'm wondering, does Marriott also have a strategy for wanting to sort of be the brand that people just think of, not just when they're traveling, but when they're just living their daily lives?
Absolutely, and we have brands that do this really well. I would say that Edition Hotels does this particularly well, and we talk about Edition as a place where you will find the best in food, beverage, and entertainment in that locale. So the Edition in London, you've been to.
Oh, no, I haven't been
Oh,
there.
you must go.
Yeah, one day.
So it has this wonderful restaurant, Berners Tavern. Jason Atherton is the chef, and it is so well known in the local community. People go there. I think for a few years you had to have, they had a waiting list, and it became the hot spot for the community. People went there to see and be seen. And so every brand actually has their own sort of take on it, but I do agree, engaging the local community is super important. At the end of the day, when guests travel, they actually want to see what the locals see. They want to, go to restaurants or, go to places where the locals are. And this is it's all sort of spurred on by technology because people are exposed to so much more.
Right. Interesting. And another question we have is about, aren't you afraid that getting into short-term rentals, as you are doing with Hostmaker, will dilute or cannibalize your hotel business? Are the hotels that you work with, specifically in London, where the pilot's being held, are they concerned?
People are always concerned. We're also you're concerned because you don't know, right? The unknown is always concerning. And that's, again, the whole point of running the pilot. Mm-hmm. But we do believe that when people travel, they make decisions based on their trip purpose and their travel need. If you're a business traveler going to a city for a couple of days, it is more convenient to be in a hotel. The other thing is if you're traveling solo, a home rental can be an isolating experience. If you're traveling with your family and it's a leisure trip, you may require a different accommodation. And so the point is that we want to provide our guests with choice. We don't know what the impact is going to be. It could be, we could find out that this guest is using a home rental anyway when they are traveling on leisure perhaps. Why not give them a platform where they can do it all on the same, with the same company? They're able to earn and redeem points, and they have the global assurance with Marriott.
That's great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you,
It was so
Deanna.
great to speak with you.